Hello, sir. It's been a pleasure meeting you and conversing with you today. For the benefit of our audience, if you can share a brief sketch about yourself, I think we can get this conversation going.
Yes, that's a good idea. My name is Ramakrishna Narayanaswami. I born and brought up in Tripunithura, Kerala state, studied engineering at Trivandrum Engineering College, master's degree from IIT Madras, then went to United States to do PhD, then afterwards stayed on at United States, lived there for the last 40 plus years, and I visit my hometown once every couple of years, and I am presently come on vacation and meeting with Sakshi people at this time. It will be nice if you also share your background for my benefit as well as the full benefit of the audience.
I'll do that. Okay, thank you. My name is Shankar. I was born in Chennai. I grew up in Delhi. I did my engineering from Trichy. I did my post-graduation in management from IIM Ahmedabad. Since then, I've been in the software industry. I've been in the software industry for 35 years. That's the only industry that I have known. I have worked around the world. I worked in Bombay. I worked in Sydney, Australia. I worked in the Bay Area, the Silicon Valley, and I have been in Bangalore, which is the Silicon Valley of India, for the last 12 plus years. And I'm happy to be here and happy to have met you. If we can take this further to the topic of what we are at discussion, what's been your interest in the Vedas and what have you been doing with that?
I had my Diksha Upanayinam at the age of 11, and my father at that time was working for the Kochi Maharaja's office in Tripunithura. Suddenly, the integration of Kochi and Travancore happened, and he was transferred to Trivandrum immediately after my Upanayinam was there. And we had a Shiva Puja at home, which he was performing every day. So after my Diksha and the teaching of the Sandhya Vandana mantras and all that, I was taught the Shiva Puja, and that started my interest in Veda. Then studied the Namakam, Chamakam and Suktas for doing the Shiva Puja, and from there continued my interest in Vedas.
Okay. It's strange because my interest in the Vedas was very much the same way, except that for much of my teenage years, as I was in the school, I was in the college, past the Upanayinam, I didn't pay much attention to that. Much of my interest came because my father again used to have a hereditary puja and used to do the puja. And I would hear the mantra chanting of Purush Suktam, Rudram and Chamakam on a regular basis. And I had always had this desire at that time that I would like to learn to chant. And finally, when I started working is when I went to sort out an old teacher who taught me Rudram. Then I went on, carried it on to Australia and learned further. And wherever I have gone, I've been chanting now for about 30 plus years. It's been a great pleasure to me. Purely the sound of it, it's a pleasure. The experience of it has been fantastic. I think I have benefited a whole lot from that.
I think all people who have gone through this will narrate similar things, because my experience is also very similar. In fact, one of the basic statements, they say, Anubhavam eva shastram. It is one's own experience that is the Shastra. Once you get that experience, it is amazing, and what benefits it has brought to you, it is very difficult to explain and communicate, as you have just said.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have been in the software world, which is about as far away from the Vedic mantras and the chanting as is possible. But I have been drawn to it simply because I think it is, while there is a religious perspective, from my point of view, it has been an enriching experience for myself. So experientially, it's been fantastic.
Yes, exactly in the same manner. I am also in the software, but I am in the engineering software. Even though software is generally referred to as the IT software. After my PhD, I had the opportunity and perhaps the blessings from God to work at NASA as a NASA scientist for 5 years, and I started my own engineering development on an IP product developed. I had a company in US, which during the development of the IP product, I had a lot of struggles, and it was the Vedas and the Upanishads and all our scriptures was the great support for me whenever in times of difficulties of running the company. And then once that company was sold, all my basic worries were over. And then the second company that I started in Bangalore, all of them, these Vedas have been a great, our scriptures have been a great strength. It is an ayatanam, a foundation for me.
So you have been teaching Vedas also, and you've been chanting also. Can you share something about what is your perspective of Vedas and what is it that you are?
Early on, as I was doing the Shiva Puja and all that, it was just the emphasis was on correct chanting, as our teachers who all our gurus who taught us have said the Akshara Shuddhi and the Swara and intonation are important in the Vedic chanting. So all the time the emphasis was on the correct chanting. For example, in the days Purusha Sukta, Sahasrajirisha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sabhomim Vishwato Vrutva Atyadishtadashangulam. Whether at the time whether I fully understood the meaning or not, the correct chanting was first taught us, and that rhythm and the correct chanting intonation that reverberated within yourself, and you enjoyed that and you went on. It was much later that you started searching, what does this mean? How do you say, if you chant this or the Gayatri Mantra, Tat Savituhu Vare Enyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayad. You chant the Gayatri Mantra, that is a solution for all your problems. We chant that, then you keep on asking, hey, where does this meaning come? So that came much development. So everyone once has to learn the chanting, the correct chanting first, or try to get interested in the Vedas and then understand the meaning. If you can understand the meaning also early on, then your total faith will have a much greater impact, as I learned during later years.
No, I agree with that. So here's my question to you, and I'll preface it before I give you a background to where the question is coming from. So in India, or in Bharat as we've known, Vedas have been accorded the preeminent stature amongst all amongst all the spiritual literature, amongst all the religious literature that abounds this land. Vedas by everyone has been accorded a very great stature. I've also read, we also know that Vedas predate Mahabharata and Ramayana. There is significant research that is underway based upon archaeoastronomy, which dates Mahabharata anywhere between 3000 BC to 5000 BC. There are discussions and conversations on the web, as well as books out there which talks about Ramayana being 11,000 BC, etc. So Vedas has been predating those. Nevertheless, the issue of finding the meaning for the Vedas, because the Vedas itself emphasize that one has to know the meaning, that if you do not know the meaning, while you will get benefits, to get the total benefits, the meanings is important. What is, I know you've been teaching this to many people, so can you share your perspective and your knowledge about the effort that has happened historically in terms of according meaning to these mantras in the Vedas?
That is a very, very excellent question, because one of the main difficulties that we find is, on the one hand, Vedas are considered as the most ancient and oldest books of wisdom. By all religions have accepted that statement. Yet, our own people have accepted that statement at face value, but without understanding what is the meaning, what is the wisdom, why Vedas are accorded that preeminent status, not only within India, but all over the world, among all religions. All other religions are, Semitic religions are much later. Vedas are supposed to be tens of thousands of years ago. Even the most conservative Western audiences, Western scholars who are willing to grant any strength to Veda, do it so grudgingly. They themselves are saying it is 3,000 or 4,000 BC or earlier. So they themselves allow that Vedas are about 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. and our own belief is tens of thousands of years ago. Yet, the way Vedas have come to us, it has been the meanings. Early on, the emphasis that these Vedas are not lost. The Vedic rishis and the Vedavyasa, who classified the Vedas into the 4 Vedas, allocated the persons to preserve the Vedas. It was all in the correct chanting and the Aksharashuddhi. So they had various forms of Pada, Kramapada, Ganapada, various ways to preserve it. Nonetheless, the total meanings were all started coming out only much later, and Sainacharya is credited with the first complete meaning of all Veda mantras of all 4 languages, of all 4 Vedas in the 14th century, which is about 700 years ago.
So this is the same Sainacharya who was the administrator and chief minister of Raya and Bukka,
yes,
of the Vijayanagara kingdom.
Yes, and you wrote understanding. You are also deeply read in this area. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've discussed some of this. A lot of this I gained by talking to Professor. One is he talks about how Yaska, when he is writing the dictionary, he talks about some of the words from the Veda mantras and shares his meanings to those words. But I believe the best of them has been from Madhavacharya, who has written about a commentary as well as the meaning on about 40 suktas, consisting about 400 mantras. I think for the benefit of others, I know that you know it already. We know that the Rig Vedas are classified into mandalas. Each mandala have many suktas, and each sukta has got a mantra. A mantra is typically, Gayatri mantra is a mantra, or Gananam Tva Ganapatikum Havame, that's a Ganapati mantra. So the classification is you have the Veda has a mandala as in Rig Veda, and each mandala has got a sukta, and each sukta has many mantras. I believe Madhavacharya translated about 40 suktas amounting to about 400 mantras, and he gave an interpretation of that. Subsequent to that, Raghavendra-swami in I think Shabdartha Mantra Manjari. Mantrartha Manjari. So he gave meaning, or he gave a way by which you can ascribe meanings to various mantras, and that was later in the 16th century. I think these are the ones that I have known. But from what I have read, Sainacharya was the one who did a comprehensive compilation of the meaning of everybody. I've also read that it was not a one-man work, unlike Madhavacharya or Raghavendra Swami. He did this more by pointing about 100 different people who made various translations of various mantras, and it carried his name because it was under his auspices, it was under his grant, and it was under his guidance that everything happened. The problem with that was because it was done by 100 people. As we all know, what is done by 100 people has 100 different meanings. Many of the mantra words have got different meanings in different places. As an example, when meaning was not known, Professor used to say they ascribed the name Annam to that. So the challenge has been in getting to understand what everybody enjoys the chanting. But the moment you start asking what it means, literally the bottom falls out of most people. And that has been the challenge. And I think from what I know, Aurobindo gave an antarmukha understanding, an inward meaning for each of the mantras, or a large number of mantras. I think we really had it more a ritualistic understanding of what the mantras are, which itself has made in the public eyes by those who are performing the rituals a different kind of a meaning, saying that, hey, this is all Veda mantra, they're all for rituals, and there is no real meaning to that. What are your thoughts on what Aurobindo has said? And
Shankar, you have very well brought out the problem and described it very well. And as you correctly said, Sainacharya in the 14th century, 1315 to 1387, he was the chief minister or prime minister of the Vijayanagara empire at that time, as you have just alluded to. He assembled this large team of scholars, Sanskrit scholars, and decided to do. So to his credit, and as an everlasting contribution to humanity and mankind, to bring out the word by word meanings of all the mantras in Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda and other Veda at one place. That is a great contribution, as you correctly said, of Sainacharya. At the same time, as you also correctly pointed out, because Sainacharya had also other administrative responsibilities of running the state, and he has assembled 100 to 150 Vedic scholars, while they may meet together and give general policies, at the individual levels, one cannot go through minute details. So, same word appearing at different mandalas of Rig Veda were given by different translators with a different meaning. So, that because of that there were some issues, and also as you correctly said, Sainacharya emphasized being mostly the external meanings of that one. Still, many people would like to first get the external meaning, or the, as we say, the gross meaning. However, our Vedic rishis have used too much symbolism. That has been to understand the symbolism, and to do, and that is exactly as you also correctly said, Madhvacharya in the 13th century said, while every word can have an external meaning, it also has a spiritual, or as you correctly said, Antarbhuga meaning, that you have always in our discussion before class, we were emphasizing, before this session you had emphasized the Antarbhuga aspect. So, Madhvacharya explained that there is an Antarbhuga, or a spiritual meaning to every word, but he translated, as you said, about 40 or 42 suktas out of over 1028 suktas in Rig Veda. So, he made a start and all that, but Sainacharya's work, because of the comprehensive nature of all Veda word by word meanings are there, everyone started relying on that. So, most people who followed that in the 17th, 18th and 19th century, especially the Britishers, the Edward Jones of Asia Society, and Britishers appointed Max Muller, then of course the USA Griffith, Keith, many authors had only Saina's word by word meaning, and since he concentrated only on the external meanings, plus the fact that these Western authors does not understand even the symbolism.
No, I fully agree with that, because...
So, I want you to elaborate out the discussions.
Absolutely. No, see, when I started out, I mean, like most Indians of my age, I can't read the Sanskrit translation that most people are given, including Sainacharya. So, I was always looking for saying, hey, where do I find an English meaning for this? Somebody should have done that, because this has been in this land for a long time. So, I found Jones and Griffiths. I went through a few mantras, few suktas, and I basically felt that there is no way, if this is what it meant, that they could be accorded such level of respect, maturity, etc. So, to me it was a shock to say that how can something that means this, which is essentially like saying, I offer you cow, you give me this, something to that effect, and I thought that was difficult.
I want you to continue, but I just want to interrupt one thing. That was precisely my point also, as I was searching for, these meanings do not satisfy me, because if these are all the meanings, then this Vedas could not have lasted for so I want to still continue, because that's the same feeling I had.
Absolutely. In fact, many of my friends, when they talk about this, I said, please don't read those books, then you will just go away from the Vedas, and that would be my advice to anybody, that unless you just want a very basic understanding, please do not read Griffiths and the Jones. I know that it's a fairly strong statement, but if you really are interested in understanding what the Vedas are, that's not the way to go. But my effort to still understand it went on till, I have a different interest in temple architecture and sculpture. So I was talking to two Sthapatis that I know very well in Kumbakonam. And when I was talking to them, they talked about how the entire temple architecture and sculpture is based upon the Vedic mantras. And then they pointed me to Aurobindo. So this is one of the earliest books that I read of Aurobindo, which is, I'm showing it precisely because this is a very important book in the evolution of ascribing meanings to the Vedas. The Hymns to the Mystic Fire, and the other book was A Secret of the Vedas. When I started reading those, even though it is considered to be obtuse to some extent,
yes,
to me it was like, oh my God, the whole mind exploded, because it was so full of meaning that enriched whatever mantras I had read, that after reading this I went and started reading the mantras substantially more than anything before that, because until then I had no reference point to ascribe any meaning other than an experience of the sound of it and the experience of the kind of joy and the enrichment that I got out of it. What has been your experience, and how have you approached Aurobindo?
In fact, the listeners may think that I am agreeing with you just for agreement only. No, I could not say enough how accurately you have taken the thoughts out of me and stated this. That is where I feel like, because this Sainacharya's external meaning or the ritualist meaning, what he said, all this, while it's a great contribution, the 17th, 18th, 19th century Western authors, because while they relied on this translation, that is where they get the word by word meaning, and it is all in one place. At the same time, if Sainacharya occasionally admitted to there are symbolic meanings also, but he wants to emphasize this external meaning, the Western authors were not fully capable of understanding the symbolism. For example, I will give you one simple statement. For example, one statement is, we say Saraswati and Lakshmi will not reside in the same place. A common statement to say that Saraswati as the person who provides knowledge, intellect and all that, and Lakshmi as the person who showers people with wealth. It is a symbolic statement to say that the person who is extremely intelligent and concentrating on the promoting the frontiers of knowledge may or may not be as successful as a businessman. That is how it is used. But the Westerners think, attribute, hey, that is because of the jealousy between two women. They cannot understand the symbolism that Saraswati is associated or thing with intellect and learning, and Lakshmi is associated with wealth. So that is one. And
sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure whether they did not understand that kind of meaning. They, in my view, very genuinely, purposely gave it the lowest meaning as is possible.
That also I will say, because they had a second or hidden agenda, but I want to give them a more charitable view that it is because of their cultural thing, they are not used to symbolism. They are only used to external statements. What do you say? You help me, otherwise I will punish you. That is what the Semitic religions are saying. Whereas in our thing, always they want to raise the people. That is what it is saying. So that's one. A second symbolism, then I will move on quickly, is that some rishis have said, oh, if an inkling of a negative thought occurs in that rishi, or sometimes he feels some jealousy or something, it occurs in him, then he will immediately say, he attributes all that to the tamas within ourselves. That is why we take the negativity and this. And because of the tamas will go only when the sun comes. You know, we say, let us have sunlight, let it be disinfected, so that to say transparency, we use that in a different context. So rishis have said, sun has not risen today within me. That means I am having this negative, that's what he says. But the Westerners have taken to say, oh, these rishis are nomadic agricultural ancients who did not even know that sun will rise every day. That is how they have twisted, and what I say, whether it is due to their hidden agenda to, just like they said, Britishers said that we have no culture, we are all superstition and Pied Pipers and that type of thing, whether it was purposely as Macaulay's children, what they say, whether that is due to that, or a genuine, a more charitable explanation is genuinely the, so this symbolism and all that, without that, any translation that we read, and the Indian authors who followed Sainacharya and his Western critical analysis, the thing is complete that in the 18th, 19th, 20th centuries, people who tried to read and understand did not have anything until, as you correctly said, this Aurobindo. So Aurobindo's Mystic Fire, Secret of Veda, and even before these books came, was published after his death in 1950. But he started writing about this in the magazine that he started, Arya magazine, in 1914 onwards. He wrote essays on Veda. That became published later. So even these publications came only after 1950, which is about 50, 60 years ago. And Kapali Shastri's famous work, who was a follower, who was himself a student under Vasishtha Ganapati Muni and Ramana Maharshi, he left all that and went to Aurobindo Ashram in 1930 because Kapali Shastri and Ganapati Muni had independently concluded that there are spiritual meanings for Veda mantras, and Kapali Shastri accidentally happened to see a journal article, Arya, this thing, and someone else has said that, so I have to go there, and got permission from Ramana Maharshi, left the Ramana Ashramam and went to Aurobindo, and then formed the thing, and that is where we got all these treasures.
Since you brought these names, at least for those who are listening to it, I can definitely say that Kapali Shastriya, you would know that very well anyway. But Kapali Shastriya was initiated by Aurobindo. He was earlier was a Shishya of Ganapati Muni. Ganapati Muni himself was a great scholar, very blessed Muni, and he got the name Muni from Ramana Maharshi, and he was the one who looked at Ramana Maharshi, who observed Ramana Maharshi as his guru and the teacher. Curiously, he was the one who gave the name Ramana Maharshi to the boy Venkatramana. So, which is how he can. But one of the interesting things that I said about before we get into the internal meaning as to why and where these mantras came from. The best illustration is what I have read as an anecdote about Ganapati Muni and his student Devavrata, when they were doing the tapas in just north of Tiruvannamalai, in a place called Padavid, and Padavid is still there. It's between Tiruvannamalai and Velur. So the story goes that they were in deep penance, and Ganapati Muni has said repeatedly that first and foremost we should be teaching our children how to do tapas, which is a very strange notion in the current time, but that was the kind of a person he was. So his student was Devavrata, and both of them were continuing on a very deep meditative tapas that they were doing. And after about 15 days of intense tapas, Ganapati Muni noticed that while Devavrata was in deep meditation, there were words that were coming out of his mouth. And he collected all those words, he wrote down them, and discarding those that were either not clear or that were partly there, that he compiled all of those words that poured out of Devavrata. I don't know whether they poured or they came slowly, that is not detailed. He put those together, and he himself, being a Vedic scholar, said that these are the same as the Veda mantras because they were all in the same chandas, same meter. He said these are the Vedic mantras. These are the Vedic mantras of a new rishi like Devavrata, and they were again published by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. So somewhere that, when I read that, it's when it struck me that these Veda mantras are not poets. This is not poesy of a person who is looking at something that is beautiful. It is someone who has been in very, very deep meditation, and from the depth of that silence, from the depth of the peace of the universe that they experience, these words come out from that source that is common to all of us, which is the depth of the universe. I think that gave me tremendous purposefulness, that gave me a certain sense of confidence that these mantras really have their source in something that is beyond just human. That's why they call it Auparishaya. They are beyond human, though they have come through the human beings. And I think when I read Aurobindo's meanings for all of these, I could correlate it and say, oh, so this is where really the journey is. It's an inward journey to find what we are in realizing ourselves, And these meanings give us further fuel to understand and progress further. That's been my...
In fact, you have put it so excellently, because this is how tens of thousands years ago our original rishis got the mantras. And they say, Parame Vyoman, these mantras are always there. Just like maybe to today's, everyone is in the IT field and everyone uses computer and cell phones, they understand this. The cloud, just like today's cloud, the Veda mantras are in Parame Vyoman. This the 7 dhamas of Prithivya Sapta Dhamabhi in Rigveda Mandala 1, 16 through 22, Shad Vaishnava mantras, there is a statement, Prithivya Sapta Dhamabhi. The world is divided into Sapta, 7 dhamas. Dhamas means territories. There is no geographical boundary, but there are 7 layers sort of, and the 7 layers are Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, which you call the Bhurbu Swaha, the lower 3 worlds, then Mahaha, then Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam. So, which we also do in our pranayama, Om Bhuhu, Om Bhuvaha, Ogum Suvaha, Om Mahaha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Ogum Satyam, those 7 levels. And even when we do pranayama as part of Sandhyavandanam or pranayama as part of yoga that many people do, the whole idea is you are sending your the air that you breathe for divinization through these paths, and it gets to the Ogum Satyam, and then Om Tat Savituhu Varenyam Bhargo Devasya, you hold it there for divinization, and then it comes out. That is the whole concept of even pranayama. So, these 3 worlds, Mahaloka, that is where Parame Vyoman, where the Veda mantras are there, and these rishis, that is where they are called mantra drashtas. Not only the Veda mantras are called the Shruti, because Devavrata does not know what is giving out. It is not in his memory. He sees them from the Parame Vyoman, and all our rishis sees them. Their disciples note it down. That is the nature, because even when we say Apaurishayam, this is not written by any individual person. What we mean is that while the words came out of Rishi Devavrata or Rishi Vishwamitra or Rishi Vasishtha or Rishi Maitreyavarna, whosoever Rishi, that mantra is not the creation of that Rishi. It is being picked up from this cloud. You store it cloud computer, if you have the password, you can get it out. You put...
that's interesting, because I have, when I read these things, I have looked at these 7 lokas, dhamas that you're talking about, more as 7 layers of consciousness.
Exactly. In each of these, they divide this as this. It is not a geographical territory. You cannot buy a plane ticket and go to those lokas. It is the consciousness levels. If you are able to, by your meditation and by internal thinking, when I say you, I mean I include you, all of us, all the listeners, everyone. If you are ready to learn the Veda mantras, and whichever Veda mantra that you like, whether you like mantras for Agni or Indra or Vayu or Saraswati or Savita or whosoever mantras that you like, and you start meditating and all that, when you get to that stage, you also will be able to go. That is what our rishis have said. And the Veda mantras, not only the benefit of listening, of the rhyming and the chanting and all that, it is said by our rishis that any time we chant a Veda mantra, take the Gayatri mantra, it is was revealed to sage Vishwamitra, that is where Rishi Vishwamitra, Gayatri Chandaha, Savita Devata. When we, with invoking these Rishi as Vishwamitra, Gayatri as the Chandas, and Savitri as the Devata, and start the Gayatri mantra, the power of Vishwamitra also comes to the chanter.
I know,
It is an amazing effect. That is why, without knowing any of this, now on top of that, if you are able to understand the Arabindo, Kapali Shastri or Madhvacharya, Raghavendra, or even what you said, Yaska, from the Nigundu, if you want to go trace it from first AD, first century AD, Yaska, Nigundu, to the 13th century Madhvacharya, or the 16th century Raghavendra Swami, or the 20th century Arabindo.
These are the ones that we know of. We do not know how many have been written in the past that has been lost.
That has been lost. That we do not know.
And it's equally interesting because earlier I used to do this mantra, I'll do this, and go on. But now I realize that when you're actually, since it has been revealed to the Rishi, by taking the Rishi's name, you're actually are placing your head upon his feet. You're calling upon the chandas, which is the meter in which it is composed or it has come out in, and you're keeping in your heart
The Devata.
so that you have a total experience of what the mantra is. And mantra is not just the word, but I've read that it has the potency to show the entire visual as well as an oral experience of what it is. And the more you chant it, the more deeper you go within yourself with that, within oneself, in the sense of up to a deeper level of awareness and a deeper level of consciousness, is when the mantra itself reveals the meaning. And I've had these experiences many times where it may not be the entire mantra, it could be a word, it could be two words that could make a sense for you. That could make a personal sense. There is no way to explain it in any other way, but I was saying, okay, when you truly stay with that and go deep with that mantra, you discover one's own meaning. And I think much of that was the confidence for me to pursue that was because of what Aurobindo talked about in terms of meanings for each of these words, as well as his explanation of each one of the grandness of the mantras. And I think until he eloquently, so eloquently articulated what the mantras meaning were, nobody had talked about the grandness and articulated the grandness of the Vedas as much as Aurobindo. Everybody talked about Veda being great. Vedam, Pramanam, all of that they have said, but he was the one who actually, and he wrote it in English, which made it easier for somebody like me to understand. If it was in Sanskrit, I would have looked at it and said, thank you, but my knowledge is not there. And I think, so I think I definitely owe much to what meanings that Aurobindo has ascribed to Veda, because it takes Veda from a very basic, mundane, ritualistic, almost a bartering system, oh Agni, I give you ghee and you give me cow, to taking it into a much loftier level that Aurobindo articulated, where Aurobindo talks about the inner yajna, which is significantly what is the real yajna, not the outer yajna. Inner yajna in terms of what I offer to what is within myself. And in offering myself, I am essentially letting go of all that image and all that meaning that I ascribe to myself. As what image that I hold of the world, I hold of you, and I hold of myself. I offer to add to that fire within me and discover a new myself. I mean, that is how his interpretation is how I understood.
It could not have been stated more clearly. I thank you for a very excellent exposition of what the spiritual meaning is, and in a sense, this is the start of our steps towards understanding why Vedas are considered as the books of wisdom. What is the wisdom? Precisely what you said, that you can grow, you can rise in your consciousness level through these 7 dhammas, and you can reach to, it is again, to use another more modern scientific thing, as they in this space travel, or when they send the rockets to satellite to orbits and all that, the great effort is to get to the escape velocity to get past. Then you don't need any effort. In the same manner, if we can get past the Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, the Annamaya or Pranamaya and Manomaya levels, which is the lower 3 worlds, which has truth and falsity together, and we are human beings, so we are temptations to move through what exactly the correct path. We don't know what is the correct path. Sometimes knowing the correct path, we feel some cutting the corners. All that thing is we are there. The more and more we do this meditation from learning this thing and all that and going there, we hope to go past the Guru's room. Once you get to the Maharloka, then just like space velocity, then you don't need a
It's interesting you use these, because there are so many meanings, and I think that using these just 3 words, Bhur, Bhuva and Swar, at one level, on an external level, you can say Bhu is the earth, and Bhur is the Antariksha, and the Swar is the sky or the heaven. Whereas the inner meaning to that is Bhu is what is my physical physical sheath or the physical Annamaya Kosha or the physical body. The prana becomes the bhuvar, and the mind becomes the suva riches. So it is actually in many ways a reflection of what is outside, because this is very gross, this is very visible. I have a prana which is equally palpable but not as visible, because it is the emotional and the pranic energy within myself, and then the mental energy within myself. I think Sri Aurobindo really articulated for so many. He talked about Agni, he talked about Vayu, he talked about Indra. Each of these as not just sculptural gods in some sense. Yes, there is an energy of them that pervades the universe, but how they are, each one of them are present within us and work cohesively for our betterment. So in a sense, we are the body for them to do their work, rather than they are something else, I am something else. It is us being a vehicle through which they are doing their work, and the more I can acknowledge myself within them within me.
Exactly. You make yourself ready to receive them. That's all what you have to do. We do not have to do. They come and do the work for us. That is something, in fact, so we have come to, but we have a little bit more cover. So we are now to summarize your excellent exposition from where we started from here all the way, just to say, from tens of thousands of years ago, we preserved this with correct chanting, Akshara Shuddhi, by various ways of learning it by heart and all that. By the 14th century, Sainacharya put them all in words and all that. 17th through 20th century, some of the Western authors and the Indian authors, who they broadly called as Indologists, wrote works on that. Largely, because Sainacharya was the only source, and along with the sometimes outright critical and hostile and even negative stereotyping of some of the Western authors, either partly due to their own lack of understanding of the symbolism in Veda, or as you partly alluded to, whether they had a hidden agenda that we cannot.
Absolutely, they have hidden agenda.
Whatever that is left to, we will leave it. But for whatever reason, this 17th to 20th, so the 20th century when we came, as you correctly said, hey, is this what is available to us at the 20th century? We are all in the second half of 20th century, gone through school and colleges, and we want to understand the meaning. The books available to us, and then we are wondering, is this the meaning? If this is the meaning, as you much earlier said, it would not have lasted 100 years, not thousands of years or 10,000 years. So it has deeper meaning. That deeper he started. However, we have to credit Aurobindo and Kapali Shastri for doing all that work probably in 1950s. But I do not think on our own we would have been able to do, unless the equally important, or I do not want to place what is the level that everyone can understand when they hear what it is, the work of Sakshi. That is where I thought, and I want to start here, because you being in Bangalore, I want to start with the experience that I will embellish and supplement what I know about Sakshi, how I have benefited from Sakshi, I will say. But please, Shankar, go ahead and tell about, you put it very correctly up to Aurobindo. So we traced from almost 10,000 years ago to the first half end of the 1950s, when both the 1950 Aurobindo died, because Aurobindo did not give permission in his lifetime, because while he wrote in 1914, 1922, he was constantly revising, he was never satisfied. So whenever the people went and asked him, shall we publish this? He did not give permission. He had so many notes, even still people are discovering notes. There are still publications. Last year there is a publication from them that is another 756 page of various things that has not come out in Secret of Veda also. So many things are coming out. Even that, because of Aurobindo's strong literary use of this English language and frequent references of these gods, he assumes that everyone can quickly grasp. Without that, we may be left stranded without that. That was made easy to the common folks by the contributions that has taken place during the last 25 to 30 plus years, and I want you to start on the contributions of Sakshi to take what Aurobindo, what Yaska Madhvacharya, Raghavendra-swami, Ganapati Muni, T.V. Kapali Shastri, M.P. Pandit, and Professor Kashyap and Sakshi Jahagirdar, all of them together have taken this place of your...
No, thank you. I think, I mean, for me, as I said, once I went into Aurobindo, it's very quickly that I discovered Professor Kashyap's books published through Sakshi. And once I started on that, I think it was a seamless movement from Aurobindo's and Kapali Shastri's work, which I actually read later. But Aurobindo's first, I went into Sakshi's book. To me, Aurobindo's words were extraordinary. I mean, he was giving a fantastic meaning. But when I started reading Sakshi's books, I could then go into every word because they are broken up by every pada. And as you would know, most of these mantras have 4 padas. Some may not have, but most of them have 4 padas. 4 padas being the feet. Literally, the pada has a feet, and each one of those. So the mantras are broken out by pada. And that defines also what the chandas of the meter is. Professor Kashyap has given a meaning to each of those words by the pada. Is given in Sanskrit. There was a Sanskrit rendition or the writing out of the mantras. There was a transliteration of that and meaning for each one of those in English. And later on, they have gone ahead and published in other languages also. So I found that extremely useful. I was so overwhelmed when I read it that I finally said, okay, let me go and meet these people. Is this for real or is it something else that is happening? So I came down and met Professor and I met Jagadharji. I think it was probably one of the best experiences that I could have had, and one of the literally the most valuable thing that I have come across after having come to Bangalore. That if I had come to Bangalore, if I were to look at it, I would say that meeting Sakshi and understanding what these Veda mantras are, which has been made possible, it's been fantastic. And I have gone on public forum. I'm quite happy to say this again here, whether it's politically correct or not, I don't know. I have always said that Professor Kashyap was probably Sayanacharya in the previous life. He went upstairs, saw the mess that all the 100 people have made it. He said, no, I'm going to come down and do the work on my own. And he has single-handedly done this work, and the uniformity of the language, and most importantly, the thought he has provided into it because of his background in electrical engineering. He has applied all the engineering principles, and 30 years of teaching his PhD in electrical engineering from Harvard, and having had many PhD scholars obtain their PhD under him, he has put the entire engineering thought process, the logical process to it, and has ascribed meaning to that. I think his work, it is absolutely brilliant work, because he has taken the template that Aurobindo had given. Aurobindo has translated about 6,000 mantras out of 10,500 odd of Rig Vedas. Not of other Vedas, but essentially Rig Veda. And Professor has gone and taken up Kapali Shastri's further interpretation of the same. And for a man of such knowledge, the way with which he has done that and has ascribed it to Sri Aurobindo as well as Kapali Shastri, I think it is extremely humbling. When I think that I know something, then I think of Professor, I said I better keep my mouth quiet, because what he has done and what contribution that he has done is I think only time will tell. These books will remain for the next 100 years plus, and it will reach far corners. And I think it is almost a tapas he has done. He used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, and he has translated all the Vedas. It is gone beyond what Aurobindo has done, or gone beyond what Kapali Shastri has done. Kapali Shastri finished with the first Ashtaka of the 8 Ashtakas of Rig Veda. But I think Professor has gone ahead and done it with his own funds, and gone and made the translation of the all the 4 Vedas, and has made it possible for them to be translated to other languages.
It is really interesting, as I was listening to what you are saying, is while you first read the Aurobindo had got, and then later on came to, my own this thing is, I was doing all these, and I was in the United States, and I was developing a IP related product in US in engineering, which is a challenge of extraordinary magnitude. I don't know why I did it, but due to my NASA background and all that, say, I can do a better job. That feeling, and I did that, and I went through a lot of struggles. So whenever I used to travel to India or Europe or Japan to promote my product, IP product, which was a NASA-derived product called the Nastran structural analysis. So I was developing a version of Nastran. There were 2 or 3 versions. One is MSc Nastran, and they had a CSAR corporate CSA Nastran. As I go, I always used to take the Veda books, chant the Veda mantras, and then I was interested into Upanishads and started reading Upanishads, this Ramakrishna and many of those translations. So I became interested in Upanishads. So when 1999 I sold my IP related company in US, then I started, this Upanishads and Veda sustained me, so I am going to teach to many of my people who don't have any background. Started teaching Upanishads, and in a 4-year period from 2002 to 2007, I was covered the Dashopanishad and all that. But at the end of 2007, 2008, I still had a void. I still do not get, having learned all the suktas or the Shiva pujas and the navakas and this, I still do not get internally satisfied. Why is Veda still called books of wisdom? Of course, Upanishads, the Jnanakanda, various terminologies are used. It doesn't mean anything, but I don't answer. And in fact, 2005, in one of my trips to India, I went to Pondicherry and purchased this Himsa to fire, mystic fire, Secret of Veda, Savitri, all those things. And I started reading, and I could not read beyond 30 or 40 pages. I could not understand Aurobindo. And then I came 2005, there is Chamaraj Pert, there is a Vedanta bookstore, and from him I caught a Yajurveda translation, Kashyap and all that, and even though I saw the address in Jayanagar, it did not occur to me to call him up and then come here. But in 2012, on a different mission, some others said, set up a meeting for me to meet Kashyap. That mission was over. Then I asked him about this. Hey, did you write this book? I did not understand. I purchased the book and I didn't. Then he started explaining. In that 1 hour, 2012 June or so, I came to meet him. In that one session, about half hour was spent for the mission for which I came. That was closed. I extended the 1 hour meeting by another 1 hour. During that 1 hour, when he started saying, this is what Aurobindo is saying, this is the spiritual meaning, this is why Veda has knowledge, wisdom and meaning that they say. When he started pointing out his books and all that, then all the various pieces that are floating and everything, first time I was at peace. My questions are answered. This is why they say it is. Then I started reading Aurobindo. Now he has given me, during the past 5 years, I have learned many things from Kashyap. And as you correctly said, while Aurobindo and Kapali Shastri set the template on Rigveda, translating Yajurveda is not at all an easy thing. And there he had to do his own diligence and learn every word and read the complete Krishna Yajurveda and Shukla Yajurveda, that to ensure that for the same word that is appearing in Krishna Yajurveda, various kandas and Shukla Yajurveda, he has assigned the same meaning in line with that one. And especially the ritualistic interpretation of Sainacharya has more direct meaning on the Yajurveda, especially in the Chamagam. Sanchame, Mayaschame, Priyamchame, Anikaavaschame. And the way people translate the whole Chamaga mantras is, there are 11 Anuvagas, and in each Anuvaga we ask various things.
Anuvaka being
a lesson or a paragraph. There are 11 paragraphs in this one, and first Vajaschame, Prasavaschame in the first Anuvaga. So Vajam means food. That is the translation given. Then second Anuvaga, Jaityam Jame, Adivityam Jame. I want to become leader, I must be good in my own way. Then the third Anuvaga, Shanchame, Mayaschame, Sham, Shanti to me, Mayaha, happiness to me. Sanchame, Mayaschame. So each one, Chame, to give that and all that. When you add all these 11, that is how people have translated. And even the first mantra of Yajurveda, Ishe Tvorje Tva Vayavasto Payavasta Devo Vassavita Prarpayadu Shreshtatabaya Karmane. I was explaining to you, while the complete translation of Rig Veda from where Aurobindo had left about 5 or 6,000 mantras, let's say approximately 50 to 60% of the 10,552 mantras of Rig Veda. And Kabali Shastri, a subset of these 5,000, which is the first 1400, but he also embellished some of the things for the local audience of Pandits, because Aurobindo's was in English, Kabali Shastri, his Siddhanjana was in Sanskrit. That helped the local Pandits, because local Pandits could not have understood Aurobindo. So that is where the Aurobindo Kabali Shastri combination helped.
Plus in the Indian heritage, unless the Vyakyanam is in Sanskrit, it is really not material. So if somebody gave it in English, it doesn't make anything.
Because many of them have only studied Sanskrit. So that is where the secret is. So about 5,000 or 6,000 mantras, approximately 50 to 60% of the Rig Veda mantras, Aurobindo was translated and set the template to use the same meaning for words appearing in different mandalas, different padas. And Kabali Shastri took this English and in Sanskrit and Siddhanjana, that is close to 1,000 pages in 2 volumes. And in addition, he wrote a Bhumika, which is an introduction to Siddhanjana. So the Bhumika and Siddhanjana was very well received, not only by Pandits, and among them one of the great scholar here, S.K. Ramchandra Rao, who passed away about 10 years ago or so. So that is where the contribution. So even if we consider Professor Kashyap to have completed the translation of the 10,552 mantras, he has no one to ask for the remaining 5,000 mantras also, other than the direction. So, and there may be some words that has not appeared in this 5,000, so he has to diligently ensure. So he did that itself. If Professor Kashyap has stopped after the Rig Veda, that itself will give a pranam to him, because that's a great work. But he took the Yajurveda. And Yajurveda, because Yajas is for Yajna, it has a very different style from Rig Veda. Rigs are always this poetic with a chandas, whereas Yajas has prose sentences, and especially the Namakam and Chamakam that appears in the Krishna Yajurveda has 7 kandas, and the Namakam appears in the 5th kanda, 5th Prapataka, and the Chamakam appears in the 4th kanda, 5th Prapataka, and Chamakam appears in the 4th kanda, 7th Prapataka. And so after Namaka, with all the praise of Rudra with his various adjectives, Rudra is in a very happy state of listening to the chants of his devotees, and the way Sainacharya and all the priests who conduct the Rudra Abhishekam and all that, what they say is, and there is a Vasordhara Homam prescribed with the Chamaka mantras, is all devotees pray what you want, and suppose the God comes in front of you and asks what you want, you may not have thought about it. So the Chamaka mantras are organized in various sections. First chapter, Vajashame, so Vajam is food. Second chapter, Adivaka starts with Jaityam Jame, Adivatyam Jame. So I want to be strong, I want to have clarity of what I say so that everyone will follow what I say. The third one, Shanchame, Mayaschame, Priyamchame, Sham, give me Shanti. Because Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks, Ashantasya Kutatsukam. One who does not have Shanti, how can he have happiness? So if you want happiness, simply running after money is not going to help you. Learn first to get Shanti within yourself. Shanchame. So this Chamakam says, Chame, Chame, Cha is a addition in Sanskrit, me to me. So that is of the traditional tradition. But Professor Kashyap has to give a spiritual meaning to what this is. And he said, Yajno Yajnena Kalpedam, Vag Yajnena Kalpedam, Mano Yajnena Kalpedam, Atma Yajnena Kalpedam, Yajno Yajnena Kalpedam. So this Yajna, the Yajna has ordered, you do this Yajna and you raise your consciousness. Even for the Chamaka mantras, Professor Kashyap gave it and Professor Ramchandra Rao has given a very excellent say. I was waiting to see how you will translate the Krishna Yajurveda with spiritual meaning, and he did that. So to me, that, and then of course the Sama Veda and the Atharva Veda, when he has done all these. And so almost, if we say there are total 25,000 mantras, maybe that may be unique mantras, maybe 22 or 20,000, we don't know, 25, 27,000 mantras in Rig Veda, Krishna Yajurveda, Shukla Yajurveda, Sama Veda and Atharva Veda. Professor Kashyap has translated all of them with the spiritual meaning that you so eloquently explained, and I am also trying to communicate to the people that he has provided. He did not stop there. He wrote another 40 or 50 small booklets, essentials of Rig Veda, essentials of Yajurveda and all that, and a small contribution that I was able to do with him is I translated the essentials of Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda and Atharvaveda into Malayalam, because I came from that, and he has suggested to me that I should now try to translate at least the first mandala of Rig Veda. What God has in store for ourselves, we do not know, but I am going to make an attempt to that. So, and the dissemination after Jahagidar, another unassuming quiet person. This, when you say existence brings people together, here is the example, because 1997, as you correctly said, Professor Kashyap came back from, after retirement from Purdue University, tenured professorship, and came back, invested his life's earnings, and he was the assigning the meaning. He has to go to the printer, he has to publish 1997 to 2002, and existence thought, hey, we should not ask more work from Professor Kashyap. I have to give an equally talented and diligent and a Vedic man and a Shiva Bhakta to boot, to William. So combine these two people together, they will take. From 2002 onwards, Jahagidar translating all these books, printing all these, the 26 volumes. You said a few volumes about the 26 volumes and all that. So the complete 4 Veda with 2 recensions in Yajurvedas, Krishna Yajurveda and Shukla Veda. So 5 recensions total translated. Then write these small booklets, essential booklets, then about Saraswati, about Gadapati, about Brahmanaspati, about all those, then why read Rig Veda? So many books edited, all that, 40 or 50, teaching tirelessly. And I, from 2012, as I told you, I met him, and the last 5+ years, that has been, even though in the first 6 months, all the questions there, and I got a shanti within myself. Oh, this is why the Vedas are said to have contained. Even though I still have a long way to go, but this is a good enough time for me to share what I have found. And when I came here today and Jayardhar said that he has scheduled a meeting, I didn't even know you half hour ago before we came here. I cannot say enough how similar we say. So Professor Kashyap, he is establishing Sakshi in 1997. So 20+ years. We are in 2017, 20+ years of your, what you said, as a saintly life. 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. getting up, single-minded focus on translating all these, and a person, whatever pranams we do to him, whatever we say about his contributions, will not do justice to what he has done, and the dissemination, translating them into local languages, Kannada language, teaching them to Kannada schools. He said about 110 schools, students are chanting. So the sessions that they are organizing is amazing. May everyone has to now simply buy these books. If you are English, compatible with English, by this, and share your own thoughts about the contributions.
I think for me, sometimes I feel that the Veda Mata, or this whole river of Vedas, from wherever the mantras came from, the same place, that energy has brought forth itself through the Aurobindo, through Kapali Shastri, and through Professor Kashyap. Because if until and unless that Veda mantra itself wanted its meaning to be revealed, it would not have come. So I think in facilitating it through Aurobindo, in first getting it out and in a language which is of the modern world. Because today Sanskrit is understood by very few people, whereas most people can understand English. So Aurobindo started that because it's a path breaking from giving a Sanskrit interpretation. He gave it in English. Kapali Shastri legitimized it by giving a translation in Sanskrit. And Professor Kashyap took both of that and gave the Sanskrit version and the English meaning of it and has taken it to the rest of the world and rest of India especially by giving it in multiple languages. I think it is just a phenomenal work. It would not have been possible unless the Veda Mata herself decided to be in this way. So in that sense, Professor Kashyap is an instrument, but an instrument through whom the Vedas themselves have done the work. And it would be a pride to many people that he came from a very humble background and he did his graduated from Bangalore, he did his post-graduation from IISc and went on to do his PhD from no less a place than Harvard and went on to teach engineering, electrical engineering in Purdue for 30 plus years. So he is in every sense a modern man. He is not the priest who is sitting in front of a yajna and doing the chanting. He's a modern man in every sense of what he has done and what he has been educated and what he has taught others. At the same time, he has taken all of that training and has applied it to the Veda mantras. It is purely a gift that I think we have received.
Yes, in fact, I will just add a small footnote to what you added. He not only did his PhD from Harvard, his PhD dissertation is still now used as Chu Kashyap algorithms. Yes. So many people write PhDs, they may not even be a reference back. Many people were reference thing to get an idea and to carry the work forward. But his contributions is still now in the textbooks as he did his work under his professor Chu and Chu Kashyap algorithms. So he is a man, intellectual perhaps may not fully do justice to that. He is an intellectual par excellence, and such a person dedicating, and again he also has once narrated to me about the chance meeting that he had in 1973. He also said similar thing, namely 1965 he came to Los Angeles to buy something, and he bought a book from Arabindo's Secret of Veda, and he took and he started reading. He could not understand much. In 1973, MP Madhav Pandit, who was on a lecture tour of US universities, and when they came to Purdue, the Dean of Purdue or Vice Chancellor of Purdue called Professor Kashyap, "We don't have enough funds. Will you host this man in your place?" So what the same Vedavada, how he gives the connection. So Madhav Pandit, who is a student of Kapali Shastri, he poured out everything on him. So it is not from 1997 he started translating. From 1973 to 1997 he has used all the part-time hours available to him to prepare himself for this role. So in one sense I will say this is a 40 or 45 plus effort, tapas from him. And my pranams to Professor Kashyap, Sakshi and Jahagirdar and the team that Jahagirdar, and how well he manages. He has absolutely no time. From the morning he gets up till midnight, he is managing all the printing, publication, expanding into other languages, taking the tour to mobile centers, organizing meetings over here. So this combination of what they have created in this thing, that is going to stay for years. There are so many followers, and I consider we still have a lot more to learn from him, and a lot more as we study. We may have scratched, but at least we can now understand why Vedas are there. And I invite all listeners to take the time, because this is a treasure. In the Vedic period, India progressed well. There was Veda Samskara was there. Then the Vedic Rishi's time ended. Then we came through various paths I don't want to describe. We are where we are and we say, oh, we have economic deficit, we have trade deficit, we have labor shortage, we have this shortage and all that. But I think none of them are the real reason. In my opinion, dharma deficit is the reason why we are not able to realize our full potential. And of course, again, this dharma deficit word is not coined by me, because I was part of a dharma civilization group, and there was a Kalyan Vishwanathan who was a senior executive under TCS in Dallas, and we were together and all that. He said one day, he said, Narayanaswami, our problem is not that we have no economy, no money and all that. Our real problem is dharma deficit. I caught on to that word, so I said, Kalyan, wherever I say this, I will give credit to you, because you coined the word dharma deficit. And so once we try to understand dharma, then each of us will be able to realize our full potential, understand this Vedic culture to which we are all born.
I can share with you, at least even as recently as a month back, when I was trying to understand one of the suktas from the second mandala. I mean, Professor Kashyap's book helped me a lot, because there is always the image that one holds of a Rudra. It's, somewhere that Rudra seems to give a sense of Raudram, which is, uncontrolled anger and so on and so on. And Shiva has always got this picture of the god of destruction, and hence you think that he is anything but destruction. Whereas the suktas themselves completely give a different perspective as to how it is always he is referred to with peace and bliss.
And the one who lifts people up from the Nitharvata and all that this thing. The dynamic energy provider also. That also Layam also requires. That also is role. But his main role is to people from this down darkness, to lift them up to that.
And the very chanting of the mantra is the one that evokes that energy within oneself. It is not about suddenly somebody is going to appear in front of you, anything. In just in that chant, you experience that change and shift in the energy within oneself. And when you do the Rudra mantra, Namakam, and you chant that, there is an experience that one feels, and every day is different, every year is different. You just feel that depending upon what I invest in terms of attention, awareness, and intensity that I pour into it, I get back more than what I
multiple times.
And I also realized that it is through reading Professor book, when I heard Shukla Yajurveda chanting, that I always had an issue with Chamakam, which says to me. It was almost like I'm asking somebody outside to give me. And then when I heard this and I read Professor's book, I realized that no, you're not asking for anything from these gods or god powers. That God is within yourself. So when you're chanting the Rudram, that energy of all that Rudra stands for, you experience and you feel it. And in Chamakam, you're essentially asking for the similar fruits to manifest within you. The same as what you're saying, Sanchame, Mayaschame, Priyanchame, Kamaschame. While having raised that energy of Rudra within yourself, accompanying that, you're asking for the manifestation of these.
The sham. That is why that mantra is, that the third Namaka mantra is always chanted. If you don't have time to chant all 11, Sanchame, Mayaschame, Priyanchame, Anikamaschame, Kamaschame. So that once you have Shanti, everything else will follow.
So I can tell you, but for Professor's books, there is nowhere else I could have gone to understand what these mean and how, and without Aurobindo pointing out that this is a inner yajna, and not just putting the samit in the yajnic fire outside, but that of offering every element of yourself to that fire within yourself, that takes you to that journey of discovering what you really are.
Okay. So I think maybe it is time to conclude this. So I will just again offer to, I have said many times, Professor Kashyap, you are my guru who opened my eyes, because guru is considered your guru, the one who removes the ignorance. That is the word guru. No, I am not a guru, I am an adhyapaka. He will tell me that, but he is a guru to everybody, he is a rishi to everybody, he is a saint, living saint, and we are very fortunate for what he has done. And with pranams to Kashyap and to all the Vedamadas, I would like to chant before giving the chance for Shankar to do the conclusion for this event, I want to chant the first mantras of Veda, all Vedas. Yajnasya deva mritvijam hota aram ratnadatamam hari om Ishe tvorje tva vayavasto vayavasta devo vasavita prarpayandu sreshtatamaya karmana apyayadvamagniya deva bhagam urjaswati payaswati prajavati ranamiva ayakshmamavastena ishadamaga shagunso rudrasya heti parivo vrinaktu dhruva asmin gopado syada bhakvir यजमानस्य पशून् पाहि हरिः ओम अग्न आयाहि वीदये ज्ञानो हव्यदादये निहोता षष्टि बर्हिषि हरिः ओम शन्नो देवीरभिष्टय आपो भवन्तु पीतये शय्योरभिस्रवन्तु नः हरिः ओम
Thank you. That was absolutely beautiful chanting, and I really enjoyed that. I don't know the entire thing. I know the beginning of especially the Yajurveda. I only know the first two lines. I don't know
that is what is normally chanted. Yes, but yes.
But nice. So I would like to conclude that I think, much like yourself, I have gained and learned and continue to learn a lot through the works of Sri Aurobindo, through the meanings ascribed by Sri Kapali Shastriya. But most importantly, in the current times, I have gained the most through Professor and reading his books. And I think I would urge, and this is not a PR, this is not a sales pitch, I would urge every one of you to look at many of the books that Professor or Sakshi has printed out. You can look for it on the web as SAKSI, Sri Aurobindo Kapali Shastri Institute. So SAKSI, you can look on the web, or it is Veda.com, VEDAH.com. Translation are available at an extraordinarily low price, and I think it will, if you are even remotely interested in the Vedas, there are many books, the simplest one to the most complex ones, you can look at it. I would urge every one of you to look at these, buy these if you want to, or at least make sure that you gift it and have your children read it if you don't yourself. This is critical, this is important for us as Indians, as those who have grown up in this land. Thank you. And thanks to Parimala TV.